You may have eaten this at breakfast today without thinking twice. What if the breakfast you repeat every single morning after 60 is the very first place your kidneys start paying a quiet price? I'm Grace Wells, kidney and diabetes health educator for older adults. And today we are looking at common breakfast foods that can feel completely normal, but may quietly add sodium, sugar, phosphorus additives, or potassium concerns for some seniors. Stay with me until the end, because the one that surprises people most is usually not the one they expect, and it is sitting in almost every refrigerator in America. There was a woman in her late 60s who once told me, "I thought I was eating healthy until my labs changed." She wasn't eating fast food, she wasn't skipping meals, she was eating the same comfortable breakfast almost every single day for years, the kind of breakfast her own mother used to make. And that is exactly the point I want you to sit with this morning. It is rarely one bad meal that affects kidney health after 60. It is the meal you repeat quietly, without ever questioning it, morning after morning, for years on end. Think about your own kitchen for a moment. Most of us do not eat something wildly different every day. We have a rhythm, and that rhythm becomes invisible to us over time. Coffee, then toast, cereal, then juice, eggs, then bacon. A pastry on the way out the door. That rhythm feels safe because it is familiar, and familiar feels like home. But familiar is not the same as kidney-friendly, especially for some seniors managing blood pressure, blood sugar, or kidney function that is already working a little harder than it used to. This does not mean panic. It means pay attention, because small daily habits add up in ways a single meal never could, slowly, quietly, in the background of an ordinary life. So let's walk through 5 common breakfast patterns that may be worth a second look. Not because any one of them is forbidden, not because you did something wrong by enjoying them, but because of how often they show up plate after plate, year after year, without anyone ever stopping to ask why. The first one is processed breakfast meat, bacon, sausage links, breakfast ham, and those small sausage patties are a Sunday tradition in many households, and for some people they have quietly become a daily one. The concern here is sodium. Processed meats are cured, smoked, and seasoned in ways that pack in far more salt than the package suggests at a glance, and that salt is part of how these meats are preserved and given their flavor. High sodium intake can make kidneys work harder over time, particularly for seniors already managing blood pressure, because the kidneys are constantly working to balance sodium and fluid in the body. It is not about never enjoying bacon again on a Sunday morning. It is about asking yourself honestly whether it has become an everyday habit instead of an occasional one. And here is something many people miss. The sodium concern with processed breakfast meat often travels together with another mineral, one most people never think to check at breakfast at all. We will come back to that in just a moment because it connects directly to something sitting in your refrigerator right now, something with a reputation for being one of the healthiest foods on the entire breakfast table. The second pattern is sugary cereal and pastries. A bowl of brightly colored cereal, the kind with a cartoon on the box or a warm pastry from the bakery counter, can feel like comfort food, almost nostalgic, almost like a small reward to start the day. But many of these breakfasts are built around refined sugar and refined carbohydrates, which can cause blood sugar to rise quickly and then fall just as quickly, leaving you reaching for something else an hour later. For seniors managing diabetes, or even those with borderline blood sugar that has never been formally diagnosed, this matters, because blood sugar and kidney health are closely linked in ways many people do not realize until much later. Over years, repeated blood sugar spikes can place extra strain on the small blood vessels inside the kidneys, the same tiny vessels responsible for filtering everything that passes through your body. Again, this is not about fear. It is about noticing the pattern on your own plate morning after morning. Many seniors only hear about blood sugar's connection to kidney health after a lab result comes back higher than expected, sitting across from a doctor who is suddenly asking different questions than before. By then, the habit has often been in place for many years already. That is exactly why I want you thinking about this before that appointment, not after it, while there is still time to ask better questions and make small, manageable changes. The third pattern is large servings of orange juice or other sweetened morning drinks, including some flavored coffee creamers that quietly carry more sugar than people expect. A full glass of juice feels healthy. It says fruit right there on the carton, often with a picture of fresh oranges. But juice concentrates natural sugar without the fiber that would normally slow its absorption down, and a large glass, the kind poured generously rather than measured, can carry more sugar than people realize, sometimes close to what you would find in a can of sweetened soda. For some seniors, especially those watching blood sugar or potassium levels because oranges and orange juice are naturally high in potassium, a large daily glass of orange juice deserves a second look simply because of how easily it gets poured without measuring, every single morning, almost on autopilot. I want you to notice something here because it ties all of this together. None of these breakfasts look dangerous on the surface. None of them would raise a single eyebrow at the grocery store. That is exactly why they are so easy to overlook for years. The front of the package says healthy, says natural, says whole grain. The kidney concern is usually on the back label, in the fine print most of us never actually stop to read, especially when we are rushing through a morning routine we have followed for decades. The fourth pattern is flavored yogurt, and this is the one I promised to come back to, the one many people genuinely do not expect. This catches people off guard because yogurt has such a healthy reputation, and rightly so in many forms. But flavored yogurts, especially the fruit on the bottom or dessert-style varieties with names like vanilla, caramel, or key lime pie, often contain added sugar and sometimes phosphate additives used to improve texture and extend shelf life. Added phosphorus from these additives is absorbed by the body differently and often more completely than the natural phosphorus found in whole foods like plain yogurt or fresh fruit. And for some seniors, especially those whose doctor has specifically mentioned phosphorus levels during a recent visit, that distinction matters quite a bit. This is the one many people miss entirely because it looks, on the surface, like the single healthiest item on the entire breakfast table. And this next part matters more than you think, so stay with me a little longer. The fifth pattern is salty packaged breakfast items, things like frozen breakfast sandwiches, instant breakfast bars grabbed on the way out the door, or pre-made breakfast burritos kept in the freezer for busy mornings. These are convenient, and convenience genuinely matters, especially for anyone managing a busy schedule, limited mobility, or simply living alone and cooking for one person every single day. But convenience foods like these are frequently high in sodium for the sake of preservation and flavor, and may include phosphorus additives to extend shelf life, very similar to what we just talked about with flavored yogurt a moment ago. When a quick frozen breakfast becomes a daily habit rather than an occasional convenience on a hectic morning, those small numbers on the nutrition label start adding up in a way that can be harder on the kidneys for some seniors, especially when combined with everything else we have already covered today. Now, before we move to what a kidney-friendlier morning can actually look like, I want to share something that ties all 5 of these together because it explains why this topic deserves more attention than most people give it. None of these 5 foods are new. None of them are exotic or unusual. They are the foods many of us grew up with, the foods that feel like care, like tradition, like the kind of breakfast a grandmother would have proudly served on a Sunday. That is exactly why this conversation can feel uncomfortable. We are not talking about avoiding something foreign. We are talking about looking honestly at something familiar, something tied to memory and comfort, and asking whether it still fits the body we have today, at 60, at 70, or beyond, rather than the body we had decades ago. Kidney function naturally changes with age for most people, even without any diagnosed kidney disease. That alone does not mean something is wrong. It simply means the margin for everyday habits can shrink a little over time, especially when sodium, sugar, and certain minerals are involved day after day. This is not a reason to be afraid of breakfast. It is a reason to occasionally ask a new question about an old habit, the same way you might ask a new question at a doctor's visit you have attended for years. If any part of this is sounding a little too familiar, I want you to know something important right now. This does not mean you have done something wrong. It does not mean you have failed at taking care of yourself. It means you are paying attention, which is exactly what Kidney Health After 60 asks of us, day after day, choice after choice. Foods to limit are not the same as foods to fear. They are simply foods worth noticing, worth asking a question about the next time you reach for them. If this made you think of something sitting in your own kitchen right now, maybe in the refrigerator door or the pantry shelf, that is exactly why I make these videos. A quick like helps this reach another senior who may be standing in their own kitchen tomorrow morning, holding the same carton of orange juice, wondering the exact same thing you are wondering right now. So what does a kidney-friendlier breakfast actually look like in real life, not in theory? I am not going to hand you one rigid meal plan because Kidney Health After 60 depends heavily on your own lab results. Your current kidney function, whether diabetes or blood pressure is part of your picture, and what your doctor or renal dietitian has told you specifically based on tests only they have access to. What works well for one senior may genuinely not be right for another, and that is not me avoiding the question. That is simply how kidney health works. Instead, I want to leave you with a few simple questions you can ask yourself at your own breakfast table, starting as soon as tomorrow morning. Ask yourself, is this something I eat occasionally, or is this something I eat every single day without exception? Ask yourself, have I actually looked at the sodium number on this package, not just the front of the box with its bright claims, but the nutrition panel on the back in the small print? Ask yourself, if this is a flavored or heavily processed product, could a simpler, less processed version sit in its place a few mornings a week, even if not every single day? Plain yogurt with fresh fruit instead of flavored yogurt from the dessert aisle. A piece of whole fruit instead of a large glass of juice. Eggs or oatmeal instead of processed breakfast meat, depending on what your own doctor has told you about protein and potassium for your specific situation in lab results. These are not strict rules carved in stone. They are simply starting points for a conversation, ideally one you have directly with your doctor or a renal dietitian who actually knows your numbers. Your comment may help another senior realize they are not the only one dealing with this exact same question. So tell me honestly, right now, in the comments below, what does your usual breakfast after 60 actually look like on a typical weekday? Cereal, toast, eggs, oatmeal, yogurt, bacon, juice, or simply coffee and not much else? I read these comments, and so do other people watching this video right now who may see themselves reflected in your honest answer. Before we close today, a brief and honest note that matters more than almost anything else in this video. This content is for general education about kidney health after 60, and it is not a diagnosis, a treatment plan, or personal medical advice tailored to you. Sodium, sugar, phosphorus, and potassium needs can vary significantly from one person to the next, depending on your kidney function, your most recent lab results, your CKD stage if you have one, your diabetes status, your blood pressure, and any medications you are currently taking. Please do not stop any medication or make a major diet change based on this video alone without speaking with your doctor or a renal dietitian first. If you have noticed swelling in your ankles, changes in urination, unusual fatigue, or other symptoms recently, that conversation with your doctor is worth having soon, not weeks from now. If this is the kind of clear, practical, no-nonsense kidney health guidance you wish someone had explained to you years earlier, you may want to stay with this channel because this is exactly what we do here. One everyday habit at a time, one ordinary breakfast or grocery item at a time, without the fear and without the false promises. Before tomorrow morning arrives, I want you to notice just one thing, nothing more. Notice the very first drink you reach for in the morning. before you even fully wake up, before you even think about it consciously. Tomorrow, we are covering 7 common morning drinks that seniors often trust completely without question. And at least one of them might surprise you just as much as that flavored yogurt surprised you today. I will see you there.